Well, hello, my friends, JW, and welcome to hopefully the final part of Expedition Ecuador. So, this episode, then, we're going to be building the Capuchin habitat, the Colombian white faced Capuchin habitat, which is this area here. Don't know why there's so much lag. Let's, but yeah, it's this area here, quite planted, and it's going to have like a lost temple stroke archaeological dig theme to it. Hopefully it turns out how I've envisioned it. We're also going to be, excuse me, every time I record lately, whatever I've eaten earlier in the day comes back and try and kills me. We're going to be planting sort of the outskirts here. I've put a couple of plants in just to sort of see how it'd look, and looking from here, it looks pretty naff. But we're not going to be up here. We're going to be sort of like down this level. So get some different textures in there, different shades of green, some stuff on the walls. I think it'd turn out fine, to be honest. We're going to move the Great Curacao in as well. We'll just nip and check on our birds tape here. They're both over here. I've seen them show signs of breeding, but I don't think we've got we haven't got a successful conception yet. Then put the roof on, which is probably going to be the longest part of the speed build, and also some doors here and there, and the signage for Expedition Ecuador. It looks like the tree's poking through here. It actually isn't. It's just a loading thing. The further away you get, it's weird. I don't know, but yeah, it's not actually poking through the wall. Okay, these are actually poking through the wall, but other than that, no. Yeah, and then the next episode, we're going to be doing the two sloth habitats and this area here. The reason why I'm not including the sloth habitat in this episode is because we don't yet have the two-toed sloth mod, but we do have the official three-toed sloth, which they were, of course, in here. So I'm going to use the same sloths, but I'm going to put them in this habitat first, and then build around the enrichment and see where the animals like to spend most of their time, and then move them from here into here, and we're going to retrofit this habitat for the walkthrough exhibit, but it isn't going to be a walkthrough. Guests aren't going to be able to walk through it. And then eventually, when the two-toed sloth mod comes out, we'll pop them in here. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. This episode, Capuchin. So yeah, it's going to have a lost sort of archaeological dig that's unearthed a temple sort of theme, and there's going to be lots of planting, lots of jungle, that kind of thing, and there's going to be a lot of vertical space because there's already quite a lot of space anyway for capuchins, because I'm sure, do we have a statue of the Capuchin, right? No, I thought we did. Would help if I could spell. Let's turn blueprints off, we don't need them on. It's definitely a monkey statue though, like a small monkey. No, I could have sworn there was. Maybe I dreamt it. I might have dreamt it, actually. That's a pretty plausible explanation. So we need to find something that's roughly capuchin sized. Orangutans aren't, but I mean, this is the size of an orangutan in this habitat. So the capuchins, they're going to have more than enough room. I've not bothered about that. And we can have, if I remember correctly, is it 13 males? Again, would help if I could spell. Colombian white-faced capuchin. They're vulnerable. And we can have 13 males, 39 females. We're not going to have that many. We are going to have a decent sized group though. I'm thinking maybe 16 individuals in total, not including offspring. So, but all mature offspring are tolerated in the group. That's absolutely fine. So we can grow our troop. But dominant males will leave after 7 years as the alpha and move to a new group to prevent inbreeding. So we'll keep that in mind. Male capuchins will leave at 4 years old to search for an unrelated troop. Females remain for life, but the dominants leave after 7. Again, they can go with a lot of things, but we're not going to put them with anything. Right. So, let's crack on then with the speed build. I'll see you in just a second. So we're starting with the temple work, essentially the ruins, if you like, in this habitat. Which is one of the main focuses, actually, because it's, as I said a few moments ago, meant to be like a lost sort of temple, archaeological dig kind of theme. And we're using a mix of the India Pack pieces by Nicholas Lionrider and the in-game painted temple pieces, which are of course from the South America pack. So I really like how this looks, and I guess, I don't know, what would I say about it really. I go through a few different design ideas. You'll see one of those now on screen. Initially I was going to have sort of like the remainder of a frame, like a wall frame, and then have plants sort of coming down off it, but I realised I didn't like the view, so I get rid of it and just keep one wall in the end. Yeah, it sort of stays like that. Just putting some more rubble pieces down, some stones. Now it's time to change the colours, so I went for a nice grey colour with just a touch of red in it, sort of like a grey browny colour, more so towards the grey side of things. Putting some moss decals in, and I'll do some cracked stone as well, just to give it some extra theming to make it look a little bit older. And yeah, it does turn out pretty much exactly how I wanted it to. Putting some logs in now for the frame for the archaeological structure, but it also serves as some climbing for the Capuchins. Just putting some bamboo in there. Colour that. So climbing, I was going to do a completely custom climbing rig, and I figured, what's the point? So I end up modifying some of the in-game blueprints is the word I'm looking for, the prefabs. But before doing that, I wanted to get some of the big trees in and some of the planting, just because it's a bit easier to sort of structure the climbing around that, especially when those trees are climbable as well. They form part of the climbing structure in that way. Putting the enrichment in as well. Thought I'd customise the ball. Just don't know why, just thought I did. And there we go, putting some of these climbing pieces in now. So I do a nice sort of big fallen tree that's leant against the ruins, and just start linking everything up really. Primarily I use the log pieces, the normal ones and the thin ones, but I do use some branches and a bridge at one point as well. You do see that in this episode. So I'm now looking for rope. I use rope as well. Not as much as I'd like, admittedly, but I just wanted to give the capuchins some different textures to walk on, so it wasn't always wood. So there's some rope. They can be moved if necessary. You know, you can untie them, move them somewhere else, change things up, keep things interesting for the capuchins. Because the Colombian white-faced capuchin is one of the smartest monkeys in the world. So they are found in sort of Central America, South America, and the southernmost extremes of North America. They primarily eat fruit, leaves, insects. They prefer high tropical forests and wet lowland regions, which I think we managed to recreate quite well with this habitat, sort of inadvertently. They're surrounded by water, and of course they've got high forests to climb in and use. They usually only have one young at a time. They do live in a troop. They are a social animal. They tend to live, I think, a maximum of 40 years. That's been reported in captivity, so I'd imagine it's less in the wild. They're also known as the Colombian white-headed capuchin or the Colombian white-throated capuchin, but I know them as the Colombian white-faced capuchin, and that's what the game calls them, so that's what we shall call them. What else can I say about the capuchins? Found in northwestern Ecuador, hence why they're in Expedition Ecuador, but they are also found in western Colombia and the extreme east of Panama. There are 2 subspecies of the Colombian white-faced capuchin, and up until the 21st century, the Panamanian white-faced capuchin was considered conspecific with the Colombian white-faced capuchin as a subspecies. It's actually a separate species. So you learn something new every day. Named after the Capuchin friars, of course, because of the cowls that they wore. And it is listed, the two of the subspecies, are listed as endangered, but the species itself is listed as vulnerable. Does relatively well in captivity. Never seen Colombian white-faced capuchins in captivity. I have seen buffy-headed capuchins and another species of capuchin, but I can't remember what it is now. It was a very long time ago. Anyway, just planting everything up now, using a mix of plants that they would encounter in the wild, and just putting some different rocks in as well. Some of the dynamic mossy rocks and some of the sort of standard tropical rocks. Just make it nice and overgrown and make it feel abandoned, because I did want this habitat to look like a zoo habitat. You know, we've got the concrete lined island and it's under a glass roof, but I also wanted it to look natural. I think, if I may say so myself, that I've managed to achieve that. And now I realise why I've stopped here. So the flower area and the grass area that I'm doing now, that's like a sensory garden, if you like. Those flowers are going to provide scent, and the capuchins are going to probably tear their heads off and eat them for the nectar and stuff like that. So it's enrichment as well as sort of dietary supplement. And the grasses, it's the same story. They can forage for insects in there, they can just pull the grass out if they really want to. But we're using a mixture of colours, using some of the dry or the parched, I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the dry and the normal one. Then I'm just going around and adding some dirt, keep the textures nice and interesting. These grasses that I'm putting down now, they do end up getting moved because we have to put down some more water facilities, because food and water are apparently an issue in this habitat. I don't get how, but there we go. So yeah, I was really happy with how this habitat turned out, and I will undoubtedly talk about that later on in the live section, which I've already recorded, so I know that I do. So this here, I forgot to press record for the first part of the roof, but what you're seeing now is essentially just copying and pasting what I'd already done to the other side, and then adjusting the tree so it didn't poke through, and then continuing that roof design over. I didn't want the roof to be too high, nor did I want it to be too low. It's alright. There's a lot of flat area at the top, which I'm not a massive fan of, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I could have done it at completely custom angles if I'd have wanted to, but I just wanted to see what it was going to look like, you know, with the roof on and that bloody advanced move tool. Yeah, just to see what it looked like with the roof on. And we sort of get away with it, you know. It's a flat roof, but there's gaps in between the panes. They function as like gutters, if you like. So the rain would just run through those and then down the sides of the building. Now we're doing the front of the roof. Nice and straightforward. Popping some glass rectangular panes in. I would have probably gone for a different style roof if I'd have been a bit more confident and a bit more comfortable doing so. But yeah, it's not a bad roof, to be fair. You don't notice it that much unless you're looking from above, and guests would never be looking from above. They'd always be looking from sort of ground level up, so you don't notice it too much. You can see here I'm just experimenting with how I can make it look a bit more interesting. It just doesn't work, unfortunately, so we just end up doing the old plonk it in and rotate it like so, and then I go ahead and do the back. I intentionally didn't record the back because it's exactly the same as the front. There's no point showing you the same thing twice, is there? Just lining everything up nicely here. Yep. And then we move into... Okay, I'm going to do the other side. Yeah. That Curacao mod is bugged. I do talk about it in the live section that's coming up, but we don't end up putting the Curacaos in this episode because the mod is bugged. It doesn't crash the game or anything, but you can't really play with it. So, indoor planting. Very difficult. Trying to find plants that fit in that gap and don't poke out the roof and sort of fit the theme, the tropical theming. It's very difficult. So I try with a few different options. I go for some things on the wall. I tried some on the sort of rock barrier. In the end, I just end up just filling that gap with trees, I think, primarily. Yeah, tried to avoid bamboo just because I will be doing an Asian tropical house when we get around to the Asian area, and that's going to have a lot of bamboo in it, so I didn't want to double up on the bamboo. So finding tropical plants that fit a 4x4 space is difficult. Here, yes, the roots push through the roof of the vet surgery, but you know, we'd never see the inside of that vet surgery as a guest. So here we are in the live section, my friends. We have more or less finished Expedition Ecuador. Got a bit of planting to do around the outside of the building to sort of mask some of the little things that are poking through, and just to make it look a bit more visually interesting rather than this grey block. um, I'm really happy with how it's turned out, actually, and I'm not going to do a full tour because obviously it's not completely finished, but I am going to show you the finished Capuchin habitat, and you can also see here that we've got the roof on. Now, I haven't edited the speed build stuff at this point when I'm recording this, even though for you, you'll have just watched the speed build stuff, but I'm 99% sure that I forgot to press record at one point, so some of it might be missing. That's why I've decided to do a little sort of mini tour to make up for that. But yeah, you can see here we are in the new sort of South America area. So we've got Adventure Andes on the left and Expedition Ecuador on the right. And if I just actually check, I think I did make a sign like this for Expedition Ecuador. Yeah, I did. So it looks like that. So what I might do is blow it up a little bit. Because if I just... That's Adventure Andes. And if we go back to Expedition Ecuador, there we go. So that would be sort of over here. I might put it on the front. I'll show you what the front looks like in a moment. It's the most boring thing I've ever seen. Adventure Andes, there we go. There we go. Keep getting notifications even though I have turned them all off. So I'm assuming that means they're all turned on, right? And that means they're all turned off. But I keep getting the notifications. Anyway. This is the front of the building. And it's just really boring. So I might put a big billboard here for Expedition Ecuador. And then this area down here is all going to be planted. And then I'm fine with that there because you get this sort of view from here. You can't really see it, which I don't mind. Of course, this is all going to be planted, so you won't see that either. And then the further back we go, we sort of come around here. And then, you know, I'm fine with that. That looks fine from there. And then, of course, we've got the exit here. But I digress. We shall start with the entrance. Very sad news as well. You can see Andes here, our male Andean bear. He and Nakara, the female, actually had another baby. And unfortunately, Nakara passed away. So it's just Andes and the baby who's in here somewhere. And a little spoiler, I don't think you can see it from here, but their daughter, Inca, is next door in that habitat you can see there. And she's got a new companion called Yumak. And he's a big boy. Anyway, so we have the entrance to Expedition Ecuador. There's this little texture thing here. Can't really do anything about that, I don't think. Let me just check actually. What we dealing with? Panel. Yeah, I can't really do anything with that. So I could just put a sign up there. Anyway, let's head on in. So I've got it paused at the moment, simply because the zoo is a little bit laggy. Just because it needs to keep configuring stuff out every time you load in, you know, the traversable area and what animals are where. Climbing is the worst one. Matchie's tree kangaroo, the koalas, they constantly need their climbing adjusting, otherwise they get welfare notifications. Quick digression. Was going to put the Great Curacao in. The mod for the Great Curacao is bugged. So you can buy them from the store, They don't appear in your trade centre, so you have to go into your animal roster, move them to the trade centre from there, and then you can move them from the trade centre to your habitat. Problem is, you can't sell them or release them to the wild, so obviously, you buy them waiting to get some good sort of genetics. All the ones that you've bought what have got really crap genetics, you then stuck with because you can't sell them or release them to the wild. So you move them into the habitat, and everything's fine. And then you save the game, go away, you come back, and when you reload into the zoo, they all are male. Even if you had male and female in the habitat, they're now all male. So the Great Curacao won't be in here until that mod gets fixed, essentially. I have filed a bug report with Bongo. Hopefully it's going to get addressed soon. But here we are, the roof and the Colombian white-faced Capuchin, which is vulnerable. I believe I said endangered in the last episode. And you get this amazing view of some really cool, if I may say so myself, climate enrichment and sort of temple work. So I wanted it to, I said, I think earlier on in the episode, I wanted it to feel like an abandoned archaeological dig that was unearthing like a temple deep within the jungle, and certainly for my standards I think it's achieved that. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And initially you might think, well, it's a really big habitat for capuchins because they're quite small. And you are sort of right if you think that it is a really big habitat for capuchins and they are quite small. But actually, just stood here, you can see there's one there, there's two there, we've got 12 in total, and some of them are expecting young already. So yeah, the troop will expand. I did have some issues with some of them were dehydrated and some of them were starving. The food platform up there is reachable, so I had to put this one down here just to alleviate the starving notifications. And the hydration hidden underneath here, I don't think you can see it from here actually. Oh, you might be able to just glimpse, no. Oh, there's another one there anyway. Behind here, there's two water dishes. That still wasn't enough for them, so I had to put a keeper sort of fillable trough in. I don't know if you'll see it from here actually. It's just there where the cursor is. So keepers can go and fill that up. I really like how this habitat's turned out. We've sort of kept this tree theming, what ZSH Plays created. So we've copied one of those trees over, just tilted it ever so slightly away so they're not touching. And then the rest of it is all planting that they like. And you can see we've got the roof supports in. I've tried to blend it in as much as possible, and then just here I've done some implied anti-climbing just in case the capuchins felt like they wanted to get adventurous. So we will continue to walk around, and you start getting some different views the more you walk around, which is absolutely what I wanted. So you can see one there. There's Frank. A little bit of a bush poking through there. So Frank's about our height, maybe a little bit taller. Oh yeah, I forgot about the path here. We'll have to stand on the wall for this bit. But yeah, the colour scheme, the amount of planting, the way the habitat looks and feels, it's exactly what I wanted. And there are trees that they can climb. really nice opportunity to use these Ceracopia trees, because I don't use them much. Done some planting up here. It's unfortunate that it can't. There we go. Nope, 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 I've sunk. No. Anyway, the sloth habitat, I had to make some adjustments to it. We've lost that little alcove out at the back because the panel sticks down. I'm going to try and find a way around it if I can, so we can open that back up again. If not, it's not the end of the world, is it? Because the sloths can't use that back space. They can only use the walk-through exhibit space. Nothing else has changed there. It's a bit janky over here. I do apologise, because the explore mode can't tell when there's two paths on top of each other. Which it's doing again. Because there is a path that runs under here. Got planting at this side. It was really difficult, the planting at this side, actually, because it had to be something that fits in the gap, which was essentially a 4x4 space. In fact, just let me come out of explore mode. It's not going to do it, which is unfortunate. So yeah, it had to be something what fits in this space. So it was really difficult finding plants that fit in there. I do use mods, so that helped. Just nip over to, this is one of my favourite views as well, I think. So from sort of head height here, you're able to see Capuchin, enrichment, there's the little water trough, enrichment, climbing, feeding, climbing, enrichment, there's a Capuchin there. You can sort of glimpse the water. You can sort of glimpse the water dishes, which I'm not a massive fan. I don't like the fact they have a tap sticking up when they drip all the time, but whatever. I've done my best to hide them. And then down here, near the back of the Curacao hab, there's some feeding enrichment. It's hard to get head height here because obviously it's just going to drop me through the path, I think. Yeah, there's a path underneath, so it can't differentiate. But yeah, it's turned out really, really nice, and I like how it looks, and I'm really quite happy with it. There's an adequate amount of planting. It looks a little bit overgrown, and that can lead to some difficulties in spotting the Capuchins, but in all honesty, I don't mind, because that's kind of what I was going for, sort of overgrown, abandoned archaeological site kind of vibe. It's absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, this is how I envisioned it in my mind. The climbing enrichment is just modified from the blueprints in game. You know, why reinvent the wheel? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It does what it needs to do. I like how it looks. It's very natural. Yeah. And I've got this big fallen tree here, which just provides some additional climbing up, and then they can jump from there. Got a little bridge here. Again, just in keeping with that abandoned archaeological vibe. This would be like a hut where they'd sleep, and then there would have been a walkway over here that's since disintegrated and part of it's fell down, and then there's a little bridge that they could walk across, and they've sort of done a bodge job, mashed it together. There's just a fallen branch connecting those pieces, and yeah, I just really like how it's turned out. It is probably one of my favourite habitats, and I know I've said that a few times in the past few videos, but the marsh deer habitat, this habitat, and what was my other one? Maybe the mountain tapir habitat. I like those. Got some moss, got some chipped stone. Just some roots sort of growing out of the little crags. It's quite bland under here. It's literally just meant for water. I could, if I really wanted to, remove the faux rock and some of the plaster and let them drink from this sort of moat. I don't really want to do that. I just want it, the idea is that it's an island. And of course, realistically speaking, it probably would be lined, because otherwise erosion would just wreak havoc with it, quite frankly. So that is pretty much Expedition Ecuador. So we're still waiting on the Great Curacao, because the mod is broken for that. Capuchins, they're doing fine. We've got some pregnant ones. Say offspring due. Offspring due. Oh, we've got a juvenile already. Completely missed that. Little baby Capuchin. Let's have a look at you, little baby Capuchin. Oop. Oop. Hey, little baby Capuchin. Nah. So yeah, I'm sure there's 12 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah. So there's 12 in total. There's 8 at the minute, but there'll be 12 when the births have happened. I may get a couple more males, just to add some genetic diversity to the mix. And I've also got it paused because the Capuchins are very noisy. I will play it for some cinematics, I think, at the end, though. So what's left to do with Expedition Ecuador? So obviously, Great Curacao. The next episode, we'll be doing the sloth habitat. This will be the 2-toed sloth habitat. We're just going to put 3-toed sloth in, see where all the enrichment pieces and the climbing structures are, build around that, and then move the 3-toed sloth into their habitat, which is just down here. So that will be the next episode. Got the roof to put on here, but of course this is going to be nocturnal, so this will be a completely filled in roof. I'll put some planting on it probably. Got this area. I'm 90% sure I know what I'm going to do with this area. I'm going to put some donation boards in, some donation bins, sorry, some education boards, and a little bit of seating. I was going to put a talk in here, but I don't think it really works. You know, there's no viewing opportunities, so I'll just make it sort of like a little pit stop, if you like, because the walkway isn't big enough to fit the donation bins in. What else is there to do? The planting's alright. Have we got any pregnant tapirs yet? Here's the female. Way, she's pregnant. Yeah, I'm just really happy with how it turned out. It looks really, really good and really natural, despite it being a box. I could have been a bit more creative with my roof, but I used the whatever these pieces are, I can't remember now. Glass rectangular panel, something like that. Because the idea would be that obviously if it rains, it then falls into these grooves, and those grooves then just drop off, and it acts like a natural sort of gutter. Can't really help this bit. It doesn't look too bad though, to be fair, does it? And now I've used some of these new tropical pieces as a sort of cap where the roof is setting. And then, oh, I haven't shown you the exit. It's one of the things I'm most pleased about. Honestly, oh no. That's really annoying. Frontier needs to do something about that. Right, there's no path under here. Right, thank you. So yeah, the exit, as I was saying, if I may say so myself, I think the past few habitats that I've built have been really good for my standards. And because of that, next month, I'll go into that in another video, but next month, I've called it Maintenance May. So you'll be getting the sloths, that's the next episode. Then there'll be the tour of Expedition Ecuador, that's the episode after that. Then we're going to move back to Australia for a night down under, which is the Australian Nocturnal House. Australasian Nocturnal House, technically. And there'll be the Eastern Quoll and the North Island Brown Kiwi. That will be your 4 episodes for May. But behind the scenes, I'm going to be improving some of the habitats that we've already built. So the Antita, the Coati, the bush dog, the Patagonian Mara, the Guanaco, the Capybara Springs, Pantanal Pool, Greater Ria, Mountain Tapir, adding some new planting around the zoo, creating some more wild areas, fleshing out the conservation station. There's one at the entrance and there's one near the Pantanal platform at the moment. And then I'll be opening up the back end of... It's not something you say every day, is it? I'll be opening up the back end. I'll be opening up the end of Adventure Andes into the Pantanal platform. So it creates a much more open area, and it's going to improve guest flow for when the zoo does eventually open, for which we are quite behind schedule. But we're not going to open the zoo to the public until the Australia zone is finished. After that point, we'll do a test run, see how the guests respond to the layout of the zoo, the animals, the viewing opportunities, stuff like that, and go from there. And this is the exit. So you brought out at tree height, and then you descend, turn the corner, and descend again. And then you brought back down to ground level, and then you can go off on your adventures. There's going to be a little eatery in this area. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that. I'm just very conscious of the fact that we've spent a lot of time in South America. It's probably time to get back to Australia, which I'll just very, very quickly show you. So I've already done the greater bilby habitat because we had those in the original iteration of Dunswell Zoo. It just needs the roof on it. Are there bilbies in here? No. So we can add the greater bilbies at some point. Needs a custom floor putting in. And then the Eastern Quoll, they've got quite a big area. They're not going to need all this area. So we can potentially play with how far back this goes. We've got the Taka here, or Takahi, depending on how you want to pronounce it. We've got the monorail, which is going to have a station here. I know it's quite close to that one, but it's going to have a station here. And then it's going to curve around the back of the food court and head into Africa. And then we've of course got the wallaby walkabout and the Australian sea lion. So that will probably do it, my friends. Thank you very much for watching. This is what I was talking about, where I need to do some planting around the outside. See, I anticipated that, so I've left some gaps just to sort of hide the stuff that's poking through. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I always love to hear from you all, especially Aubrey Chaston. I hope I've pronounced your last name correctly. Pretty much become my top fan. Thank you very much. Frank says hi. I say hi. Of course, thank you to everyone else that watches. But I will love you and leave you all with some cinematics of the Capuchins. So I shall see you all next time for the 2 sloth habitats. Until then, my friends, stay safe, stay kind. Remember to like and subscribe. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at JW_YT. And I shall see you all next time. Bye bye for now.